I'm Kev Mr. Kerr, and welcome to Power Oversteer. And today's episode we are reviewing the Indycar Series 14th round of the 2013 Championship, the Honda 200 at Mid-Ohio, and it was a strategic race. It was a very interesting race, but it was a good race. There was very good passing, especially down the hill into turn 4 and turn 5. And in that race we saw another trend which has happened this season. We saw a first time winner. We also saw Scott Dixon gunning for his 5th win round the Mid-Ohio course and his 4th win on the trot for the first time in his career. And we also saw maybe Helio Castroneves is in trouble in 14th on the grid. Well, how did they do in the race? Let's find out in the race recap. So the race recap of the Honda 200 at Mid-Ohio, and at the start of the race we had Ryan Hunter-Reay on pole with Will Power starting alongside him on the front row for his 7th consecutive top 5 start for the Penske driver. Hasn't converted many of those into results though. Behind him we also saw Scott Dixon and we saw Marco Andretti. Charlie Kimball was in 5th alongside his teammate Dario Franchitti, so all 3 Ganassi cars made it into the Firestone Fast 6 for the first time ever. 7th was Justin Wilson with Simon Pagenaud in 8th, Simone Di Silvestro in 9th, very good qualifying for her, and James Drake, the birthday boy, his 26th birthday on race day at Mid-Ohio, was in 10th in his Rahal with that Mananagan machine. But at the start we did see many moves. We saw was quite respectful driving actually, and we did not see a caution at all in this race for the 2nd year in a row, and it's now 201 consecutive caution-free laps around this race after last year and at end of 2011 for the final 26 laps. And this race distance this year have been extended by 5 laps from 85 laps to 90 laps. But early on we did see Marco Andretti start to hold up drivers. They're the only driver in the top 8 to start on the black prime tyres. In Indycar, just like in F1, they have to run 2 types of tyre in the race: the black primary tyres or the red sidewall tyres, which are softer and were about a second a lap faster around this course. Andretti was holding up cars early, but Charlie Kimball made his way past him for 4th in turn 4 on lap 3. Then Franchitti followed on the next lap. We also saw some good moves further down the field from Graham Rahal at his home course for Rahal. They live in Pennsylvania, just where this Mid-Ohio track is. He's been here a lot as a child when his father Bobby used to race an Indycar, and so he knows this circuit like the back of his hand. He was making moves early on past Joseph Newgarden in his Sarah Fisher Hartman racing machine, and debut boy Luca Filippi in the Barracuda Racing Brian Herter Motorsports machine. And that was further down the field, and that's 6 and 7. Then we saw the first pit stops in the race from James Hinchcliffe, who's running 10th in his Andretti Autosport machine, pitted on lap 9, and he was going to go onto a 3-stop strategy. So was Tristan Volche in the Smith Peterson Hamilton Motorsports machine. He pitted on the next lap. Then on lap 11 we saw Oyo Serbia, who was in that Panther Racing machine, for the injured Ryan Briscoe, who was in the NBC Sports Network booth commentating on the race and did quite a good job as well. We saw Serbia almost spin it in the middle of the lap around Fonda Valley around turn 7 and 8. He got too much power going over the crest of the hill, almost spun it, did a great job saving it, and dropped a few positions back just ahead of actually Rahal. And then you saw some good moves further up the field. We saw Pagenaud get past Justin Wilson on the back straight on that 27. This is just after Wilson had pitted, and this is after about almost everyone had made their first pit stop. So we saw on that 30, Helio Castroneves, as I said, maybe the championship leader was in trouble in 14th on the grid, but he's starting to make his moves forward, passing Simone Di Silvestro into turn 4 at the end of that on that 30 to get into the top end of the top 10. And then we saw Ryan Hunter-Reay, Will Power and Scott Dixon even all pit on that 30 for their first round of stops. But it was the three guys who were the fastest on these three stop strategies. James Hinchcliffe, Simon Pagenaud and Charlie Kimball, who are out in front. And this is after Pagenaud had passed Ryan Hunter-Reay into turn 2 as Ryan Hunter-Reay got out of the pits. And so these three were at the front, and then we saw Charlie Kimball pit, and Ryan Hunter-Reay, he had a bit of a train behind him on his two-stop strategy, unsurprisingly, on that 36. And then we also saw Marco Andretti start to make moves in this train. He was past Justin Wilson into turn 2, and he was past Cash Nevis down the back straight on that 43 just as they had pitted. And then we saw Charlie Kimball pit for the second time, and he jumped the two stoppers in of Ryan Hunter-Reay of Willpower with his very fast stint. He was running flat out. Ryan Hunter-Reay and Willpower had to lift off, and then I say a caution-free race even. You know, they were losing a lot of time. On that 47, Kimball jumped back into the lead past Pagenaud when he had to pit. And then on lap 60, we saw the two stoppers such as Ryan Hunter-Reay and Willpower pit at the same time, but Willpower's pit was right behind Hunter-Reay's, and so Hunter-Reay had to take a rider line round into his pit stall and missed the tape where the fuel hose would have been by about 18 inches, so they really had to stretch fuel hose to get into the car. That cost him time, and so Willpower leapfrogged him in that stop. On that 64, we saw Tony Kanaan, who was having quite a quiet race in his KV racing machine after qualifying, down the grid in 19th. He got out of the pits, but he had a loose wheel, and so he was the only retirement of the race on lap 64. The right rear wheel was loose, and so he pulled off into the infield very, very nicely, where he was in a very safe space until there was no safety car brought out. But this was when Charlie Kimball also pitted, and so Pagenaud had a few laps to build a bit of a gap, and it seemed to work. On lap 72, he pitted and was out in front of Kimball, but Kimball was also held up by EJ Viso, just like Pagenaud was when Viso passed him into turn 2. And so down the back straight, Kimball had a run, and down towards turn 4, we saw Kimball dive down the inside and grab the lead almost immediately after Pagenaud was pitted, took advantage of him on cold tyres, took back the lead and held on for the rest of the race, and he won by 5.5 seconds to get his first win in the Indycar series, and he's the first time winner round Mid-Ohio. He won by 5.5 seconds from Simon Pagenaud. Dario Franchitti, who switched strategy midway through the race to a three-stopper, he came third ahead of the two-stopping Willpower and Ryan Hunter-Reay, who had quite a train behind him, but so did Helio Castroneves, who was kind of a couple of seconds behind Hunter-Reay. And Castroneves had this great train for the last 20 laps where there were some moves going on, and we saw Scott Dixon make some moves up to 7th. We saw Justin Wilson make some moves up to 8th. And we also saw Marco Andretti drop to 9th, and James Hinchcliffe, who had got out in front of Dixon in 7th behind Castroneves, he dropped all the way down to 10th and was fending off Simona Di Silvestro for that 10th spot. Sebastian Bourdais was 12th, James Jakes 13th, Oil Silver 14th, James Davidson 15th in his debut in the number 18 Dale Coyne machine. Quite a good day with him. Luca Filippi in 16th, who was actually 14th heading on to the last lap, then dropped 2 places on that last lap. First of the lap runners, EJ Viso in 17th, had quite a lot of work at the front there, didn't he, with the leaders. Graham Rahal was 18th, Sebastian Svejder 19th in his Dragon Racing machine, Ed Carpenter in 20th, Tristan Volche in 21st. That three-stop strategy didn't quite work out for him. 22nd was Takuma Sato. Where's he gone in the AJ Foyt Racing machine? 2 laps down was Joseph Newgarden in 23rd. And as I said, Tony Khan retired on that 64 with that loose right rear wheel in 24th. And that is a race recap of the Honda Indy 200 at Mid-Ohio. Let's do the winners and losers. So the winners and losers for the 2013 Honda Indy 200 at Mid-Ohio. Let's start with the winner, Charlie Kimball. His first win in an open wheel car since his F3 Euro Series win in the second race of Zandvoort in 2006, and this was 7 years ago. This was before he was diagnosed with type 1 diabetes, and he is the first licensed IndyCar driver to win a race with diabetes. And he discovered he had diabetes when he was 22, midway through 2007, midway through this F3 Euro Series campaign he had going, so he had to take time off, and he was back racing in 2008 in the Formula Renault 3.5 series. Then he went to America, to Indy Lights for 2009 and 2010, where he finished in the top 5 in the championship. 2011, of course, he made his debut in IndyCar, and he improved last year, got a second in Toronto, and this year again he got a second at Pocono. But he's been more consistent this year, he's been more confident, and he's like a much improved driver, and it's no surprise to see him finally win an IndyCar race. And they had always been on this three-stop strategy for this whole race, and it had worked out wonderfully for Charlie Kimball. And his strategist said in the race, like, Chip Ganassi have 3 cars, we can afford to gamble with one. They gambled with Kimball and it worked out, and that's what happens when you gamble, you get a win sometimes. And you know, he's also won the 24 Hours of Daytona this year with Chip Ganassi, and so it's been a great year for Kimball, and it's just great to see him, you know, fulfill some potential he showed in Europe before he got diagnosed with diabetes. And so it's good to see some confidence back. And I criticised him in 2011, wondered why he's on the grid, because he was frankly not very good 2011 in his rookie year. But last year he got some confidence, as I said, and this year he's just showing, just fulfilling some potential, and it's great to see him win. Dario Franchitti was third, and after switching strategy midway through the race, I have to say it's a very good result for Dario Franchitti, who's got 4 top 5s on the trot now. He's finished third, fourth and third in the last 4 races, so great run for him now, and that's 118 top 5 finishes in IndyCar of all time. That's 7th all time list, one behind Bobby Rahal. So if he gets one in Sonoma, he'll equal Bobby Rahal on that list. And so yeah, he did probably the max he could with that strategy. Scott Dixon down in 7th, his 152nd consecutive start, is 7th all time on that list as well. And yeah, it just did not work out for him. They stayed on the 3-stopper for much too long, switched on that 48. And unlike Franchitti, who had a bit of clear air for that couple of laps and leapfrogged him when Dixon switched strategy, you know, he had just enough clear air there to jump ahead of the 2 stoppers of Power and Hunter Ray, and he actually fell behind Helio Castroneves on his 3-stopper. So yeah, this did not work out for Scott Dixon, and he lost 2 points to Helio Castroneves in the championship hunt. You know, every point counts, and as we've seen in the past few years in the IndyCar series. So yeah, just not the day for Scott Dixon, not the day to get his 5th win at Mid-Ohio, to get the 3rd win in a row here. That's never happened in the IndyCar series, and so yeah, not working out at all for Scott Dixon. But good solid points, and you know, there's still 4 races to go this season. I'm sure in Sonoma he'll be there challenging again. For Penske, Will Power in 4th, finally converted one of those top 5 starts into some solid points after crashing out of both races in Toronto. And yeah, it's just very nice to see Will Power up there, best of the 2 stoppers. Really did work out for him, and he was a bit lucky, as I said. Ryan Hunter-Reay lost out in that pit stop by having to just not putting in enough into his garage, not being close enough for the fuel to be engaged properly. You know, they really had to stretch it to get the fuel in, and so yeah, Will Power took advantage of that, and you know, he kept 4th place. So good result for him finally. And Helio Castroneves in 6th spot, great points for him again. Doesn't lose too much to Ryan Hunter-Reay, who's 3rd in the championship, and only loses 2 points to him and gains 2 points Scott Dixon. It couldn't have been much better for him really, from where he started on 14th, made up 8 positions, the most by any driver, along with Luca Filippi, who came from 24th to 16th. And so yeah, very good result for him. Andretti Autosport, and we have got Ryan Hunter-Reay in 5th from pole. Strategy just did not work out for him, that 2-stopper, but You know, good top 5 for him, but he needs more in these last 4 races if he wants to defend his title. Marco Andretti down in 9th after starting 4th. Yeah, he just lost out in that last part of the race, and he couldn't have done much better, really. It was just the strategy didn't quite work out for him, really. It's the same with James Hinchcliffe. Hinchcliffe pitted too early, perhaps, for that first stop, and it just didn't work out for him in the end, as he kind of had to save fuel at the end and lost a few spots, as I said, in that last 20 laps. EJ Viso in 17th. He's got to look at his mirrors a bit more, maybe, when the leaders are around him. He played a big role in that battle between Kimball and Pagenaud for the win, and he played too big a role for back marker, frankly. He should maybe have pulled over a bit for Kimball, maybe a lap earlier, just put over on that back straight before turn 4. But I do like in America how they do let the back markers fight for their right to be on the lead lap. I don't like it when they fight perhaps too hard and they're interfering with other battles of the leaders, and that's what happened here. And yeah, not a good day for Viso at all. And then we've got Smith Peterson Hamilton Motorsports. Pagenaud in 2nd. He said he had the best car he's had all year, really did show it, and he's just unlucky to lose out to Kimball in the end, even though Kimball was perhaps faster over the whole race. Pagenaud did great. He was in that first stint, he was languishing in the bottom half of the top 10. Then he just got some clear air and really put the pedal to the metal, and yeah, very good 2nd spot for him. And he's great, really up there in the championship once again in the top 5. Great year again for him, and it's strange to say that is only his 2nd podium of the year. His first, of course, his first win of the year. His first win in Indycar in Detroit, and he's one of 9 different winners this year, and one of 4 first-time winners as well. His teammate Tristan Volte down in 21st. Again, it doesn't work out for the rookie. Again, maybe pitted too early, a bit like Hinchcliffe, and he just didn't have the pace in the race, it seemed. So yeah, just did not work out at all for Volte. And then we have Dale Coyne with Justin Wilson in 8th. Again, very solid run for Justin Wilson. His first top 10 round here in Mid-Ohio, where he broke his back a couple of years ago, actually, in the Dry and Reinbold machine. And so yeah, a very good result for him, his first top 10, as I said, around a circuit he really likes. So quite surprising stat that. His teammate James Davison debut in the Dale Coyne machine, as I said, won twice here in Indy Lights, and it seemed like he did a good job in the race. You know, qualified in 16th, finished in 15th, and yeah, very solid run for him. I'd like to see him maybe do a couple more races as well in the year, or maybe next year as well for him. And then we got the other new boy at Barracuda Racing, Luca Firpi. Started the last after causing the red flag in qualifying. So if you cause a red flag in qualifying, all of your lap times are right, and you start near the back. And he started last and went up to 16th. I said gained the most positions, was in 14th on the last lap. Then he just fell down 2 spots on the last lap, unfortunately. But yeah, very solid run again for Firpi. Was 5th in practice too, as well. So he's really making a name for himself there, and hopefully he can run at like Sonoma or Baltimore, you know, really, or Houston, and really show himself to the IndyCar crowd, and hopefully get a seat next year. He looks very capable in these cars. We also have the other one-car team, Panther Racing, as well, with Oyo Servia. Started 17th, finished 14th, was very anonymous this race. Apart from that almost spin on lap 11, did a great job holding on, but yeah, just very anonymous. And you know, with everyone running flat out, or almost everyone running flat out, there wasn't much in the way of, if you didn't quite have the pace in the car, you know, there wasn't many other ways to make up for that. And so yeah, that's an average finish there for Serbia. And Joseph Newgarden, 23rd, Surfer Sharpman Racing Machine. Don't know what happened, he just seemed off the pace and was back near the back of the grid all race long. Same with Takuma Sato, who's ready. His season plateaued after round 4 when he had the championship going into Long Beach and going into Sao Paulo and going into the Indy 500. yeah, you don't want your season to plateau that early. He's just gone down. He's just gone downhill since then. I don't know what has happened there. Ed Carpenter in 20th in his Ed Carpenter racing machine, average or normal race for Ed on these road and street courses. So not much to add there. Sebastian Zadrian 19th, average race for him this year. Just hasn't really been up there challenging with the top 10s a lot at all. Unlike Sebastian Bourdais was challenging for 10th near the end of the race there in 12th, and just didn't quite have the pace to get into that, sneak into that top 10. And we've also got Ray Hall at Monaghan with Graham Rahal in 18th, just not the race he wanted at his home race at all, just didn't quite have the pace. And James Jakes in 13th, finished ahead of his teammate again. And on his birthday as well, so their 26th birthday, former GP2 driver. He's been in Indycar for about 3 years now. So yeah, Jakes again showing improvement this year, and another solid finish ahead of his teammate. And I got KV Racing with Tony Kanaan, just loose wheel, but again anonymous in the race. But he couldn't make it up with strategy, a bit like last year when they did make it up with strategy. Got a top 5 during the race when it was caution free. But this time it didn't work out for them, it seemed. And Simone Di Silvestro, solid run for her in 11th after qualifying 9th. And yeah, just a solid race for her for once, which is good to see. And so yeah, that is the winners and losers from this race. So let's do of the race. So, of the race and driver of the race, well, we've got quite a few candidates, haven't we? Charlie Kimball for winning his first Indycar race, for Time Pagenaud coming in second in his Smith-Peterson-Hamilton Motorsports machine. For Dario Franchitti taking advantage of the mid-race stretch, and he switched to a free stopper to get onto the podium, continue his good run. We've also got Will Power behind him, best of the 2 stoppers out of Ryan Hunter-Ray. Halo Castroneves were making up the most places in the race along with Luca Firpi and getting some valuable championship points. And maybe Firpi and James Davison on their debuts, not really putting a foot wrong, the rookies, having very solid races in their machines and not causing any cautions. But I think it's got to be Charlie Kimball for winning that race, taking advantage of the 3-stop strategy, the faster strategy, and really gunning those laps and really making that decisive move on Pagenaud on that 73 when he was just out of the pits, taking advantage of Pagenaud being held up by EJ Viso, making a move around his outside on turn 2, and then making a move down the inside of turn 4 in a very late braking move as well. And so yeah, it's got to be Charlie Kimball, I think, and it's got to be team of the race has got to be Chip Ganassi Racing as well, for putting him on that 3-stop chase, for gambling with that and for the gamble working out, and getting third with Dario Franchitti as well. With Scott Dixon, he didn't quite work out, but he got 7th, got solid championship points, is still right up there behind Harry Castroneves, just 31 points behind with 4 races remaining. Overtake of the race, and there were many great moves throughout the race into turns 4 and 5, but the most important one, and I think the most decisive one, has to be the Charlie Kimball move on that 73 on Simon Pagenaud. As I said, very late braking manoeuvre, they were virtually in the braking zone when he decided to dip down the inside and just got enough the brakes on to get the car swung round and to hold the line into turn 5 as well, so Pagenaud couldn't attack on him as well. So yeah, it's got to go to Charlie Kimball overtake of the race, and his driver of the race as well, with his team Chip Ganassi Racing team of the race as well. And that is my review of the Honda Indy 200 at Mid-Ohio. What an interesting race it was. It was rather good for Mid-Ohio race, and we'll be back in 2.5 weeks at Sonoma for round 15 of the championship, and then a week later it's the streets of Baltimore. Never dull that race is. And then we got a double header at Houston at Reliant Park. I think it's around there at Houston anyway, at the beginning of October. And then 2 weeks later it is finale in Fontana, and that was a great oval race last year. And if the championship is as close as it is heading into that race, oh, it's going to be very entertaining again as well. But that was my review, as I said, and at Sonoma we're going to be celebrating a nice landmark for Tony Kanaan. He's going to have 211 consecutive starts, which would equal his team boss Jimmy Vassar's record. So that's something to celebrate at Sonoma, and hopefully you're going to be celebrating some great drives as well, and a great entertaining race as well, just like last year. And last year we saw Ryan Hunter-Reay, championship contender, he got tangled up with Tagliani. Maybe we're going to see a championship challenger have another race of trouble, and maybe it's going to really open up that championship again. But as I said, Kazhinev is looking strong, Scott Dixon also looking strong, Hunter-Reay back on form. Oh, it's going to be great. And I'll of course have a preview of that and a review of that, along with the Belgian Grand Prix, which is also happening the same weekend. So salamat for watching. So till that, pal, Oversteer. Cheerio.